Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Another episode, Two Pieces of Toast. Today, we have the legendary Cash Money. Cash Money Worldwide. MIDOOSA. Fleet Bear. He goes by many names. The man,
Yeah,
the myth, the legend, my uncle. Welcome to the podcast.
thank you, Logan. How is everybody?
Oh, yeah, we
We
doing good.
are doing fantastic, Chris. Fantastic to meet you again. We talked just briefly ahead of this podcast, but again, very humbled to meet Sir Logan's unk.
Yeah, I'm
So,
glad to be on here.
you actually reached out to me because we should probably clear this up first. I spread some misinformation right on the podcast. I can't believe, I didn't get flagged, but I was going around telling people you were breeding blue tick coonhounds to hunt bear dogs, or hunt bears rather. I don't know what the
Yeah.
hell I'm talking about.
I breed walkers and English crosses.
So what's like
The
what?
the walker is a tree and walker coonhound. It's its own breed, and the English is their own breed. And we just combined the two to make a better dog.
Oh, and
Yeah.
that's how
So when
you
you
got the
say
one.
combine the two, do you mean through genetics and breeding? You don't mean like very careful sowing. I just want to. We've
Yeah,
talked about
yeah.
a lot of outlandish stuff on this podcast. I just want to reiterate this is selective breeding.
Yeah.
Yes, it's selective breeding. I've had my own breeding since 1998 when I first got my first coonhound,
Wow. Eh?
That's
and
two.
her name was Medusa,
Medusa,
and
I like that.
she was a registered Dream Walker hound, and we started breeding her different other breeds.
So what's that mean, registered? Just to hold up real quick, because I'm
They're,
not familiar with
they got
that.
they got papers on them. They're like their own blood.
Okay,
They got their
so it's
own
kind of
bloodline.
like a. Oh, I get you. Like a selected. Okay, so you can prove where their bloodline came from, kind of thing. Like that, you can
Yes,
prove their lineage. Ah, okay, I
yes,
get you.
exactly.
Continue. Sorry, my bad.
And I first got into coon hunting right out of high school, and started hunting this little gyp I had, a little female dog, Medusa, and we just started coon hunting her. And I went to some of these. We have competition coon hunts around here, and the more you win, you get a title on your dog's name. So I won quite a bit of hunts with her, and she got up to what they call a night champion. And I started showing her in these shows, and she became a show champion. Also,
Double champ.
yes, that's well, they call it a dual champion. And
Okay.
I got with this older man. I don't know if I should say his name or not, but
we can we can leave it off.
okay. Well, he was like a granddaddy to me, but he wasn't kin to me or nothing. He got me into bear hunting,
Mm.
so I quit coon hunting, went to bear hunting, put this gyp, and she took on it like it was nothing. I mean, she's just a natural.
Mm.
And we just started breeding her to different other bear dogs, and got more bear dogs out of her. And she finally died, I think, in 2008. She was 10 years old.
Dang.
So in my hunting party, I got a big group of I'd say about 20 or 30 people. And this one dog, his name was Eagle. He was out of Medusa and Hawk. So they started breeding Eagle because he was such a natural bear dog, just like his parents. Then
Okay.
out of those dogs, they started breeding them to it went back to Medusa, kind of like inbreeding, but it's not inbreeding. I forgot
Okay.
what they call it.
And that
So
doesn't it didn't affect those pups at all, right? Like that,
no,
not
it didn't.
inbreeding to say, but the lineage preservation, I think, is something that they call it. Or,
Yeah, it was so far apart. It was like this dog was out of Medusa, and we bred it to like a great grandpup out of Medusa.
Okay, I get you.
So far back, it really didn't hurt it none.
Yeah.
So that's where the dog I got now, Cash Money.
Cash Money.
So he is kind of like his daddy was double Medusa bred.
Okay,
And
I
his
get you.
mommy was a Yadkin River bred, which is out of the mountains of North Carolina.
Hmm.
So
There's so much to this science that like you don't think about when you're just a normal ass person like me that has never even owned a dog for more than a year because my mom gets rid of them as soon as she gets them.
Yeah,
Uncle
like
Chris knows all about
I have
that.
so many questions too. Like, so once you get into this kind of network, because obviously you don't, when you're having pups, you're not keeping all the pups. You don't have like 6 dogs running around your house for forever, do you?
no, we
Okay, so you
like we
kind of build
usually
this network of people that also like to bear hunt and you work together, sort of thing.
we kind of keep this lineage we got within the group of hunters that we got together.
Okay, that's cool.
So this
Now,
one man would have a litter of pups one year, and 2 more years later, this other man he'll have pups, and we kind of just give them to each, where the dogs will stay in our group.
got you.
Good.
Okay.
That's cool.
So, and in that networking, would you say like was it done over the internet? Was it done just through word of mouth? Like, is there some kind of like not to pry, but is how do you find other people that are also hunting bears with dogs? Like, because to me here in Canada, that seems like a foreign concept a bit.
Yeah,
I, but down there, I'm not sure how it really
Yeah.
stands.
I was about to say this area is completely different for that. Like especially where he's my uncle. I grew up in that area and I would go over to where he lived all the time and stuff and small towns like this, dude, people just gravitate towards each other that have similar hobbies or maybe even
yeah,
familial connections or anything. It could just be people you grew up next to their, as a neighbor or you just knew them from when you were young and people are a
Hmm.
lot friendlier in these areas than, I've moved around a bunch now that I'm older and I could say like when I go back to visit like the Mountain City, the Saltville areas and like Damascus and little towns like that, everyone's just so nice to each other and it's like a real sense of community whereas you go to Kingsport or you go to Chatham or London or you go to Johnson City, it's just like crime every single day, something you can't like leave your stuff outside without it needing to be locked up and I feel like that's just a difference in community down here for sure. Or at least in
yeah,
these areas.
yeah.
So,
That's
Chris,
the way it is out here. I mean, I grew up with these people, and we all stuck together over the years, and we got a lot of young people right now that's getting interested in it.
hmm,
As many chances I get, I'll take a young'un with me and introduce them to the houndsman aspect of the hunt. It's not all about the kill,
Yeah.
It's about what it's like a sense of pride that you get knowing that you trained this dog from a pup to a dog, seeing what it does.
Yeah.
mhm.
It's I want to get that across to the younguns, the youngsters first and foremost. It's not all about the kill, but it's the excitement of the hunt and listening to the dog's work.
Yeah. That's also an invaluable skill you can leave on to a whole new generation. Like without people like you, it's gonna die off,
Yeah,
honestly. And
it
and that's sad.
it's getting that point, and it's getting scarier by the year because they're trying to. We are on the lowest limb of the hunting community because we use dogs because everybody thinks, well, that's cheating. It's so easy. You're
Yeah.
letting the dogs do all the work. It's not all about. I mean,
And that's not
we've
even
got
you're doing work for years so the dogs can do that work. It's not like you're not doing anything. You're spending
no.
years of your life training that dog to do
It
that.
takes it takes a good 3 years in my book to train a good blooded dog. I mean, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of miles on your truck, and a lot of miles you walk in the mountains. And
Hmm.
it's a lot of hard work, what people don't realize.
What
Yeah.
are some other skills that you say you've picked up along the way, just like in that experience? Because I assume you're somewhat outdoorsy, somewhat like I assume you have the skills associated with going out to hunt as per
Yeah,
usual. But
yeah.
would
I've
you say
learned.
even more so because you're looking after a dog as well? Like, can you
Yeah,
speak to that?
the more when I first started, I had to sit back and observe the older men, and they was teaching me. Like I know years ago, this one man he was showing me bear tracks in the leaves that I couldn't see. I mean, that's how good he was. I mean, he goes right there. You can see where that bear walked. And the more time I spent with him, my eyes developed that sense of you know seeing those tracks in the leaves. I could point out tracks in the leaves just as easy it is like you seen them in snow.
Yeah.
And most of the bears would run basically the same way. In Virginia, at least, I mean, we got laurel thickets. They would go to the roughest part of the mountain that they could find. And when I say rough, I mean you have to crawl through laurels on your belly, over cliffs and everything just to get to those dogs. It's a really hard work. But now they came out with Garmin's and stuff like that, GPS collars. It's made it a lot more easier, and I think it's a lot more safer for your dog because when a bear runs toward a main highway or something, you can see it on your Garmin, and you're able to drive around real fast and grab your dog before they get killed by a vehicle.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that saved us a lot of dogs right there.
Yeah, when
I
you were
bet.
talking about that, Griffin, like all the different things he's picked up, like he's Uncle Chris, he's the one who single-handedly got me into MMA and jiu-jitsu and stuff. He introduced me to that. Not only did he introduce me to that, I'm pretty sure he's the first person to ever take me fishing. We also went deep. He took me deep sea fishing too. Like showed me a lot of things. Oh man, I want to thank you publicly too. He gave me some of the best meat I've ever tasted in my life. He may have been messing with me. I don't know if it was just regular cow or what it was, but he said it was Neil Guy and it was good. And that bear meat was good too. I still got a little bit of that other stuff in the freezer. I haven't cracked into it
Yeah,
yet. I'm nervous.
yeah. My buddy Scott Reach, he gave me all that wild game meat. He's the owner of Rare Dankness out in Colorado. He's a pretty good dude.
Yeah, man, I've been looking into just his projects, Scott's projects, ever since he came down a couple years ago. I can't remember how many years it's been now. That first time he came down and gave you that stuff. I still have the tank top and the hat. I wear it all the time. But
Yeah,
I've been looking into his projects, man, and he's got some serious accolades when it comes to the weed industry.
yeah.
He and his genetics are crazy.
I mean, he's good at what he does, and I'm thankful that he's helped me along the way. I mean, I've had a lot of mentors over the years that showed me a lot of stuff I didn't know nothing about the weed industry. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it I didn't know.
Oh yeah, DJ. See, my cousin DJ. I want to get him on the podcast. He'll never do this though. I think he's too shy to do something like
Yeah,
this. But he is super into the sciences of it. Just kind of similarly to how you were with the genetics of your dog. You keep it in that little group. He's
yeah,
very much like that with his plants. He's like you giving him those seeds the other day was the best thing that he was ranting and raving about it forever. And
yeah.
he's still over there plugging away doing his thing. But
And
yeah,
talking
that's
about talking about seeds, I got a buddy that's in Saltville. He's been breeding for over 30 years, and he called me and he told me he finally got a hold of some old timey skunk seeds.
like
And
Hmm.
the man that gave it to him gave him the lineage on it.
yeah.
The
Hmm.
and there's one of them in there. It was from like the 1970s Hell's Angels skunk.
Oh,
So I'm curious when I get home. I'm in Utah right now for a job till July, but when I get home, there should be some stuff for me there to take a hold on. So I'm curious. I think we're gonna breed most of the skunk to Scott's stuff and just see how that turns out.
Yeah. Man, do you prefer Utah over Virginia, or will you always like Virginia more?
I'll always like Virginia. It's right now all the mountains out here is white, and it's so windy right now, and there's no trees on the mountains hardly. That's what I miss the most. I'm in the
Yeah.
desert part right now.
It snowed up here today. It actually, for out of nowhere, it was 80 degrees 2 or 3 days ago, and then it snowed today. No
That's what I
idea.
heard.
No idea how that happened. Oh my god.
The groundhog never lies.
That's true. I was looking at I was super upset because there's like an old wives' tale, I guess you'd call it, or farmer's tale. It's all the farmer's almanac. If you look at the persimmon seeds, it's got like 3 different shapes: the fork, the spoon, and the knife. And it was the spoon this year, which is supposed to mean a lot of snow in a late winter. But
Yeah.
we've not seen snow at all until this. I think this is the first time was today, and
Yeah.
like in the entire year, and then like maybe once at the late end of last year. And I'm wondering if, I mean, you see like all this shit with like the poles are supposedly shifting right now.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we're gonna completely lose seasons in this area, because I personally I think Virginia is way better than 99% of the states I've seen. The only state I would like more than Virginia, I really liked this one single area of Kentucky, but it was like a fucking 3-mile stretch of land that I wanted to buy, and that was it. And it just looked like another beautiful piece of Virginia, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But Virginia, man, that state, and it's so wild because me and my cousin were debating on the lead up to it. Like, we thought they were going to be the last one to legalize marijuana. Like, we thought they were going to be pretty late to boot everything. But so he moved to Tennessee thinking we were going to legalize it over here first, and then the year after he moved here, Virginia randomly is just like, hey, we're just going to decriminalize it. We're not too worried about it anymore. And he was so upset about that. It's such a wild state to have, like, the amount of free space in between people when you get in those rural areas is something I just can't wait to have. I miss those. Yeah, I grew up in the mountains with you guys, so when I would be in the mountains and stuff, like some of my best memories are staying up there at Saltville at that little place you had. We used to camp out in your backyard.
Yeah.
From time to time, man. That place is beautiful.
So this is like gonna sound silly, but have you guys ever encountered a Bigfoot?
Bigfoot.
Sasquatch. Have you ever seen a Sasquatch or heard a Sasquatch or maybe a mating call? Anything? Droppings? No.
No, I haven't.
I haven't seen even the resemblance of it. The scariest event I had in the woods, which, if I would have went bear hunting more often with Uncle Chris when I was younger, I might have not been as scared. But my friend Aaron Lewis was camping in the Cherokee National Forest, and he had been staying there for a while. He'd been there for about 6 months, I believe, at this time. He was working at a pizza shop and then would just go home in his tent and wash off in the river by his tent at night, and come back and work at the pizza shop the next day. And he had been telling us for months, me and my friend Aaron, that he wanted us to come over and stay in his tent because he's lonely out there. And he's like, man, it's way more comfortable than you realize. And so we spent all morning drinking and smoking and rolling around and acting crazy. And then it got towards right around 2, 3, 4 p.m. before dusk, and we went up to Cherokee and we went to walk to his tent, and we start walking out there, and he said it's only about 1.5 miles, 2 miles in. So we start walking out there, and the closer we get, I start thinking like, man, it's awful warm out here, and if he has any food out there, it's gonna really smell, because he'd been telling me he had food in his tent. We get about probably good 200 I was going to say 160 yards, 200, 160 yards. It was a decent amount. And I just see something in the stream, the creek right beside his tent. And I was really nervous, but I didn't want to say anything and sound like a pussy, honestly. We just kept walking towards it, and then all of a sudden I hear this just loud splashing, and I look, and it's a fucking black bear right by tearing up his
Oh.
campsite. And dude, it scared the shit out of me. I took off running, and my friends were all running. I left them to die because they were honestly way slower than me. So I just took off and running through the woods, and I was like, ah, fuck it. I didn't even turn around to see what happened to him, but obviously they made it out fine. But needless to say, that day he went and or the next day he went and packed his tent up and moved it.
Oh, with good reason. I maintain if that ever happened to me, something like that, if I ever ran into a bear, it would never catch me. Not because I'm fast, it would just be too busy slipping in the shit trail I'm leading behind me. Like I would be so scared if that was me, man. I would definitely move that tent. Holy crap.
I
Oh,
think,
sorry.
I think, man, I can't tell you how many bears I've just seen in residential areas more so than in the woods, though. I see it way more often just in fucking apartment complexes or like in rich fields, just are coming off of the Iron Mountain in Damascus. They just kind of mosey in to places where trash cans are. I think that's really a black bear problem, though. Have you
I
ever?
feel like
Sorry,
oh,
go ahead.
sorry, go.
I was
I,
just
I
gonna.
was gonna say oh, this is awkward. Should should we kiss? No. The thing I was gonna say is it's a lot scarier to run into a bear, I feel, out in the woods than it is to just see one kind of mosey into town looking at a trash can where there's like cars around, people, that sort of thing. Like I feel like it's sort of running into like a I wouldn't say a serial killer in a house alone, but it's a lot creepier when there's one person in the house alone rather than like say you had a house full of people and somebody you didn't know walked in. Like it's weird, that kind of mentality. But what were you gonna say, Logan? Let's not lose track.
Oh, I was just gonna ask him like, what's some of the craziest experiences he's had hunting? I know when you hunt with dogs, it always gets crazy because they get on that bear and start tearing his ass up, and he fights. But
Yeah. I mean, I could talk about one time. Me and another boy, Dusty, he was from Saltville, and he was a younger boy than me. And it was a time I had Medusa, and we went down what they call Polly Creek, and it was real steep. And the only way you can get out of there was follow this creek out because it was so steep and laurels on both sides. And as soon as our feet hit that creek, our dog just blowed up, started barking. And we know they were smelling something, so we just turned a couple dogs loose, and they didn't go. I would say about 30 yards up the hill and just started barking and fighting like they was looking at something. Well, Dusty, he crawled up in there and he come back and he said, I think I see a bear dead up there. I like, what? He goes, yeah. I said, I think there's a dead bear. So we walked up there, and by the time we got back, it wasn't dead. It was just sleeping, and it was just waking up.
oh god,
And Dusty, he shot it, and when he shot it, the bear started biting where he shot himself, and when he seen us, he just darted right at us, and we couldn't go nowhere because our backs was up in against the laurels. So we just emptied our pistols, and it was like maybe 4 or 5 feet from us, and he just turned. And that was probably the most scarce I've ever been because I didn't have no way out.
yeah,
So
that's terrifying.
And you're
And
shooting them with pistols too. Holy.
yeah, I had a 357. He had like a 44.
I mean, those are big. I mean, those will do it, but it's scary. Like up here, when people go out hunting, they'll keep like a 50 caliber what they call bear rifle on hand just in case they
Yeah,
run into that kind of thing.
yeah,
And yeah, that's terrifying.
Wait, but you guys have bigger bears though, right? I think we just like in this area, black bears are common, but in Canada, isn't it? Don't you guys have bigger bears in that area? I know when you get towards Alaska, you get the fucking grizzlies or the Kodiaks.
yeah.
Those things are massive. But what about in your area
Uh,
of Canada?
I
in
think
my area,
Canada. I think Canada, you're allowed to bait bears up in Canada.
In certain areas, depending on where you go, like if you get further up north around here in Chatham area, you don't really see bears. Like you won't really run into one. There's maybe like 4 in the entire province around here. I feel
Yeah.
like no, it might be a little bit, but they're more protected around here. But as soon as you get like maybe 5 or 6 hours up north, I guess a little bit further than that, bears start to be a lot more common. And arguably, I don't really know. The bears I've seen are the ones that are moseying into the dump, right?
Yeah.
They're like kind of, I wouldn't say domesticated bears, but to a point that like my grandparents were comfortable just going and showing me the bears one day. So it's pretty
Dear God, they're
tame in that
ballsy.
sense.
Bro,
Well,
that's
no, honestly, like
crazy.
it's weird. Like I'm pretty sure my papa the one time brought jerky with him, which
Yeah.
not good, but he didn't feed any jerky, but just in case something happened, he would throw the jerky and the bear would just kind of fuck off and go for the jerky. Like they didn't they weren't like, and that's what I mean in the different settings, right? So
Yeah.
if you're up in say Algonquin Park is a big kind of you can't hunt there, it's protected, but it's like a conservation place, like a provincial park we call it. And
Yeah.
so there's definitely a few bears up there, and by no means do they want you to hunt or trap any bears, but like get, like I said, 5 or 6 hours up north, 12 hours up north, it's essential that you have those things on hand. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot just because the northern part of Canada is so dense with how much forest there is, that it it's a strange mentality. Like it's a whole, I don't want to say it's a different ball game when you're up here, but it is to a point, just because the food sources and that sort of thing I feel like are a lot more plentiful. Not
Yeah.
plentiful, yes. It's a bigger area
Well,
too. I don't.
hunting's different every area. Like hunting in Virginia is different than hunting in Florida. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
any kind of place you move, hunting's going to be different, and behavioral patterns of animals do change based on their environment and shit. Like Uncle Chris was saying, whenever he hunts in Virginia, they always go towards like the roughest part of the thicket, like those areas that are just almost impossible for humans to get through without getting tore up a little bit. Whereas, they don't have that kind of shrubbery or that kind of plant life in, let's say like fucking California, Northern California, where fucking brown bears are. Dude, brown bears scare the shit out of me. I don't know how I don't know how you could hunt one of those things. They're massive.
Yeah.
So up here, what they do is they consider it big game. So whether you're hunting moose or bear, it comes down to the same type of technically the same type of hunting. But there's different lodges up here that you can book like 5-day trips for you and your buddies to go up and hunt bears, kind
Yeah.
of thing. And I feel like it's more of a booked adventure kind of
A
thing
guided hunt,
down
yeah.
here. Yeah, like monopolized almost. Because I don't know if it's like the same down there, but do you guys get tags and stuff like that and get kind of paid for your hunts or?
In Virginia, it's kind of frowned upon if you're a hunting guide because of the Virginia Bear Hunters Association. They seem
Okay.
like they want to control all aspect of bear hunting, which I don't agree of. They don't like baiting bear, and I think baiting bear is the most, when you bait a bear, you can get on the camera, run it, see how big that bear is. If you want to run it, fine. If you don't, let it go. If you decide to run it, you run it and tree it. You get it up a tree. You can see if it's a sow or a boar bear, or if a sow had cubs. If a sow's had cubs, just leave it alone. It's just a
Hmm.
simple fact that you can gauge a bear better if you bait a bear in, and you can. It's just like you bait a bear, you're sitting in a stand with a bow. you can judge that bear to see what it is. Unless, like us bear hunting, we can't bait, so we just rig the roads and put a dog up on the box. If they sense the bear across the road, we don't know what that bear is. We don't know if it's a sow that's got cubs. We don't know how little it is. We don't know how big it is. It's just the Virginia Bear Hunter Association. It's got political out here, and I can't stand that. I mean,
Yeah.
So I checked my hunter's license, and I'm allowed to hunt black bear.
Yeah.
And that I guess is what we have around here. But brown bear, I don't think we have brown bear and grizzly or much of them.
But yeah, back to the tag. Yeah, we get one tag a year, one hunter. That's it. And
Only one?
one bear per person. And
What?
we only get our hound season. We get August and September for training. That means you can take your dogs, tree a bear. You can't harvest it. You just run your dogs. Then we have like a 3-day early kill season, which I think it should be at least a week or 2 weeks. Then we get like the whole month of December and maybe the first week in January. So what little time that we have during kill season, last year we treated 34 and we killed 21. So, which we took youngins in there. It's never, it's always wanted to kill a bear. Or I've got some Mennonite buddies, and they'll come in and hunt with us, and they'll kill a bear and they'll take it back to their Mennonite buddies or the families, and they'll eat the whole thing.
I
And
bet.
they love it. They love bear meat. Them Mennonites do. Which
So,
none of our meat goes to waste or nothing. We got a neighbor who loves it. I mean, every time we kill a bear, we go skin it at my buddy's house. He'll walk over and he'll get a roast or a ham, and he loves the ribs. And he'll take the ribs and boil them till they get kind of tender. Then he'll smoke them. And I ate some last year, and it was, oh man, it was delicious.
So what we can do is we'll get it'll be like $45 for a bear tag, and then you can depending on where you are, like there's certain wildlife management units. So depending on where you're hunting, kind of thing, you can buy a second tag, and so you can actually, and that's not the way it works too around here is tags are by party, right? So if you got 4 guys going out, you can tag 4 bears.
Oh, okay.
And if one of those guys, say, has bought his second tag or whatnot, you can bag 5 bears that day, kind of thing. Like, but it has to be basically, I don't know if it's the same around here, but they're very like, let's say you kill an animal, immediately, as soon as you can, as soon as that it's declared dead, you have to put your tag, sign it, and take a picture. So if you say get it back to, like, even if you're, say, out in the rain and the snow and you don't have a pen, your pen broke or whatever, they literally want you to sign it in the animal's blood if you have to.
Heck.
But it has to be right away, or you can be fined and whatnot. But same with if you forget your tag or something like that. Like, let's say you have the tags at home, like they can look it up and see that you purchased one, and as soon as they get back to your camp, you put the tag on and something like that. That's not allowed, apparently.
Huh.
Yeah, so you got to go out, and you have to have your tags visible while you're hunting is the other part of it too. So if a game master comes out, and they do patrol. It's quite common too, and around here anyway, there's a lot of undefined property barriers. So there's a very vague law in the sense that in order to pursue a hunt, we need certain things to be present, and that is like permission from the property owner if there is one. You have to be out like in a certain proximity from a road. in order to fire a firearm. The tag thing that I mentioned, and also transport of your weapon or firearm kind of thing, as well as proper safety until intent to hunt, as well as fair game. So if you find, say, like, what's the example that they used? Oh yeah, we're not allowed to take a shot unless it's going to be a shot guaranteed to kill, which
Yeah.
is good hunter etiquette as well. But if, let's say, you nick a deer with a bow or something like that, and then you lose track of it, later that farmer or a farmer sees a dead deer with a bow like stuck in it,
Mhm.
that's a big no-no, and it'll
Mm.
launch an investigation kind of thing, and with that they'll it's a big old deal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you were explaining to me, either you or Devontae, like anytime you guys move your firearm from your house, you have to submit a request, like to get paperwork. That's from what I understand is what I was being told. It was either you or Devontae, and I remember saying that's the craziest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. Or
Yeah, it's Devonte who talked to you about it, but to a point, I know what he's talked about. So when you're allowed to transport your firearm to and from, say, the range or to and from hunting kind of thing, but you have to have on record where that gun is being stored and have it like basically declare that it's being stored safely. So let's say for me, if I'm not allowed to have a gun at home and I keep it in my trunk or something like that, and I get pulled over and they say, "Oh, what's your gun doing here?" And you say, "Well, I'm moving it from here to the range." That would be all right. But if I said, "Well, it's back here, it's locked up, it's fine, I'm storing it here," then it becomes a whole big issue. So what they've started to do now is when you're moving your firearm, you can you it it is mandatory now to a degree, because otherwise you can get into a whole bunch of shit trouble if you do get pulled over and there's any type of firearm, because then it's considered an unregistered firearm at that point.
Dang,
And
oh,
that's
that's
what you can
crazy.
be charged with. And
that's crazy.
that's a little bit crazy. Like, so, and it's probable cause too, and it's also your wording, right? So if, say, I get pulled over and I am just taking gun from point A to point B, so my house to the range, but I speak like I'm nervous talking to the cop first time getting pulled over, and I say, "Yes, the gun is being safely stored in my trunk."
I'm definitely
Uh,
not going to shoot you with it.
no, even if I say it's being safely stored in my trunk, that's enough to say you can't have that stored in your vehicle. Would you like usually most cops will be like, do you want to say that to me
You want to
again?
reword that?
Yeah, do you want to reword that? Are you sure you're storing
That's great.
this weapon in your vehicle? But if you say I'm transporting it and it's being stored at home in a locked safe, so that's the other thing too. If we have a gun, it has to be in a safe that's combination is locked, even if the combination is 0001 and you've left it on 0000. It has to be on that 0001. It has to be in the box. It has to have a trigger lock on it, and depending on the type of rifle, it might need a bore cover.
Bro, so how the fuck are you supposed to protect yourself if somebody breaks into your house?
Well, what you do is someone breaks in, you run upstairs, you go under your bed, you grab the gun, you put in the code, then you open up the thing, you go to your keys, you grab the key ring, you unlock the trigger guard, and then you take out the bore guard, and then you do your check. So you look down the barrel of the gun, you like you do all your checks and everything, and then when you're approaching your intruder, you have to make sure that you're pointing the gun at the ground, and also don't point it at him, because if you point it at him, then he can shoot you in self-defense and that will get you charged. So you got to make sure he's pointing the gun at you in your house before you even think about pointing it at him. So
That's
just
crazy.
yeah, no, there's many occasions where literally the guy has broken like someone has broken into your house and you had a gun accessible, in that case, like just breaking into that guy's house and immediately getting shot, the guy who owned the house got charged for assaulting with a deadly weapon.
There's some
The
states
guy,
like that in America that'll do that, but then you got states like Tennessee and Virginia in America where it's like protect your property. You know, as long as someone comes onto your property and they're having aggressive intent or whatever, you can pretty much get away with a lot of shit. Like I know a guy who got off on a manslaughter charge and served 2 years probation after he shot a guy that came on his property. Like I don't even know how they got him with
wow.
manslaughter, honestly. Supposedly because he didn't take a warning shot and he just shot him, which is crazy.
Well, and that's the other thing too. That if you anticipate someone coming to your house, like, so let's say down the street you see a group of thugs and you get your gun ready and out of its lock kind of thing, you can now be charged with something premeditated because you're
Oh, I
yeah.
see him coming. Let me
Yeah,
get
I see him coming. Like, okay, let's say
I,
you have someone burning a cross in your front yard and they're standing there with guns and waiting for it to get down to a cinder. Like, yeah, you're going to call the cops, but you're also going to grab your gun and make sure they don't come anywhere near the door. Like, that is very understandable, I think. And
yeah.
I don't know.
There's also just a different. That's another thing, like we were talking about earlier with big city versus small cities, like in small towns rather. In big cities, people are a lot more like brazen. They feel like they can just fucking steal all the time. Where if you get caught stealing in a small town, like you just go missing. You just go missing usually. Most people don't do that though, unless they're on meth, right? Like a lot of people in these small towns aren't just rummaging through other people's shit. They usually have to be fucked up on some kind of junk or something. Whereas in Kingsport, John City, in these areas, like I was saying earlier, dude, they just walk down the street and take shit. They don't even worry about what's gonna happen. It's more likely they're gonna get fed and jailed down here than it is to get a spot at the soup kitchen, which is crazy.
Mhm.
That's the way it is out here in Utah. I mean, everybody's out here nice as, I mean, some of the nicest people out here. But as soon as the snow melts, they're finding bodies laying everywhere out here in the mountains.
Dang.
It's crazy.
They just go missing.
They just go missing out here and they find them when the snow melts.
What'd you say is the most interesting place you visited during your travels?
Probably Utah is very pretty out here in Utah. It's a lot of Mormons out here, a lot of nice people, beautiful. Maine is different. I was up in the northern part of Maine. I took some dogs, or me and some people took some dogs up there to a outfitter and run bear with them, and we was in like an Amish community. I mean, there was horse buggies everywhere, and Ohio and that Amish that's most beautiful country I've seen is Amish country. They really take care of their place.
Yeah.
Amish. It's real unique how they live. The Amish people.
Some of the best craftsmen you'll ever meet ever too. I've seen some
Yeah.
crazy furniture at those little auctions.
Yeah. So you went with me and I bought. I think it was you.
Yeah, you're the one that introduced me to those. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You've introduced me to a lot of the things I do now for fun.
We went to an Amish sale and I bought me a little bench seat. It was made out of hickory, but it had a lot of black bear designs on it. Bear paw prints, little everything.
And oh man, can they run? I mean,
Yeah.
not to generalize, but like around here, there's like a few Amish communities, and like you see the kids playing like teenagers, and it's like, oh man, I'm glad they're not competing in the Olympics. What is going
Yeah.
on here? That is
I like
purebred, just like that's
ever seen those
crazy.
videos?
Cardio, what they got.
Well, yeah, you ever see those videos where the people? Well, I'm sure you've seen it in person, Chris. But I've seen these videos where like Ty Lopez and other influencers, they'll buy like large plots of land and then they'll pay an Amish community to come out and build them a barn, and they'll get like
Yeah.
3 massive barns done in one day, start to finish. It's the craziest shit I've ever seen. They work together like a group of like 50 to 100 of them and pick the whole barn up and move it after they're done. I've never seen anything like it.
I've heard stories about horses getting out, and Ezekiel straight up runs down the horse and tackles. No kidding.
No.
But I believe it. Like even down here or up here, I should say, a lot of it is sheds. So there's a company in particular. It's not really like a company. It's more of just like a guy that does it. But you hire him. He'll come. He'll build a shed. Takes about 3 hours. But it's like a high quality lumber shit. Like it's crazy. It's crazy to me.
Yeah,
The
they
way,
do that
and
down
they
here.
just
I
put
feel
it
like
up
dog
and.
kennels.
Yeah, it just lasts too. Like it's good workmanship. Like say what you will about communities like that, but when you have that much focus and that much uh, cultural intensity when it comes to certain things, like for example, building is something that they have to do. Like that is something integral that they've all come together to master as a skill. There's something to be said about that. It's similar to, I would almost say it's akin to going to like a Buddhist temple and everyone there is focused on enlightenment and they can do amazing things based on that. Like it's,
You know what I think about it? I
Mm.
think if I, you know, I think if I didn't have a bunch of random shit just entertaining me all the time, me and Kiana would have like 20 babies. Like if I was on it, Amish, I feel like I would be. I feel like you're extra horny if you're Amish. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Believe me. I feel like they have a lot of kids. Every time I've seen a family of Amish people, it's like they have many. Wait, did they not
Well,
use
partially
contraception? That's what I was about to ask. They probably have different
they
views on that.
they have different religious views when it comes to reproduction and contraception as well. Like they to a degree still go by the old um belief of spread your seed, like
Like
it's your
Nick Cannon.
job. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
That's interesting.
exactly.
I remember I was very surprised whenever you came home and told me you had become a Mormon. Was it priest or Mormon pastor? What was it?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
It was that was maybe 3 years ago. I joined the Mormon church, and I liked it to a certain extent. I mean, I ain't gonna say nothing bad about the Mormons because they was all nice people. But yeah, I was like in a priesthood or something like that. They called it.
They had to do like your genealogy or lineage or
Yeah, they done my well. I didn't know this, but if I may be wrong, but I think the the church owns Ancestry.com, so we got to do ours for free.
Whoa, that's cool. I didn't know that. Now they have my data though too.
Yeah,
I was reading some of the terms and conditions on that and it's creepy, but I already said yes, so whatever.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of. It was real interesting to know. I just done it on my dad's side, which that would be on your mom's side. So,
Yeah.
and it hit the nail right on the head when y'all done y'all's. So,
Mm.
I can't believe I think I've talked about this on the podcast, but my last name's Eisenhower. Everybody that's listening to this should know that by now. That's the most German last name of all time. My family literally celebrated the fact that they were German, my dad's side of the family, like all the time. They thought it was, we were Eisenhowers. It means Iron Hewer. My dad told me all the time growing up, like super proud to be German. And then, I did my DNA and I'm 0% German. not even 1%. I'm fucking 43% Scottish. It made no sense. It blew my mind. Well, and then I did like a little deep dive and reading the little stories, and apparently, like my ancestors were indentured servants that were sent from Scotland to work off their debt as prisoners in America, and that's how they ended up in the Appalachians.
yeah,
That's another thing. Anyone else in the world that's not from this area says Appalachian.
Appalachia.
Yeah, it's Appalachia.
Yeah,
I thought it was Appalachia.
another
Oh.
interesting fact when I done mine, we came from Indians out of Eastern Virginia. It was called the the Pamunkey tribe, I think. The
Yeah,
Pamunkey or the Pamunkey tribe.
a
And
monkey.
there was a chief in there, but this chief's brother was the daddy to Pocahontas.
That's that's
That's
pretty
crazy.
insane. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's wild, actually.
it's
I,
even scarier though. I don't know if how if that's science or just record keeping, and especially if it's like owned by the church, like you were saying, if it may be or may not be. That's wild that they have records all the way back to then. Just
Yes. I mean the church likes to control is what I see. I
oh
mean I mean they're all good people, but there were some little sketchy parts in it I didn't care too much about, but I didn't say too much about it. I mean, I haven't
yeah.
been to the Mormon church in 3 years, and I had one of the elders reach out to me and told him I was doing good, and I was out in Utah still, and I'd come and visit, when I got back. So
Hmm.
mm.
I wonder, do they have anything to do with the Freemasons in your area?
I'm not sure about that. I've always thought that, but
Yeah.
it's a real secretive bunch areas that Freemason is.
Oh yeah, dude, they're in every single town. There's a lodge in every single city in my area.
Yeah,
Like, and it's right in the middle of town, and it's just inconspicuous. You'd have no idea it was there unless you knew what you're looking for. Just a normal looking building, usually a brick building, and there's just a
yeah,
little sign on the side of it that has that symbol. And then you find out all the most powerful people in your city go to that lodge, and it's so crazy.
yeah,
I really wanted to find my way into it when I was younger. When I was a teenager, rather, like 15, 16, 17. I got really obsessed with trying to figure out how to get involved in the one in my area. And my friends I was doing it with at the time, they ended up actually going there and filling out the paperwork or whatever. And apparently, you have to be invited. You can't just go and ask to join. Like somebody in the actual Freemasons lounge or whatever in your area has to reach out and invite you, and then it has to be signed off by another member on top of that. So it's
yeah,
not like just one guy can say, "Hey, come on, you're good." It's like you have to have multiple people's blessing, and then they bring it to whoever the head guy is. Like, "Hey, we invited this guy. This guy signed off on it. Is that cool?" And that's crazy to me. And the connections in there are wild, man. It's like anyone in your area that's a pretty prominent business player is most likely going to that lodge. Do they have those in Canada at all, Griffin?
I don't know. I can't speak with confidence to it, unfortunately.
they say they know a lot of secrets. I know that. I mean,
Oh,
Like,
hey, it is in Canada as well.
oh,
There's one in it says the Grand Lodge of Canada in the province of Ontario.
hmm.
hmm.
The Grand Lodge of Ancient, Free, and Accepted Masons of Canada is what it's called.
I wonder if they're
Oh,
in all the countries.
They have
so
to be.
I
They
know up here too. It is a. So they don't call it Mason. It's very heavily associated with a group around here called Shriners. Shriners.
Oh, okay.
I know
Yeah,
what Shriners are, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so we have plenty of Shriners, but for example, I did have a friend whose dad was a Mason, and I had the robe, had all the stuff. Like he was indoctrinated in it, but he honestly described it as a club. It was kind of strange, a club and a networking a basis. So basically, if you need some mason or not, I guess. Yeah, that works. If you need some brickwork done on your house, you would go through the masons to find a Freemason who does brickwork. And because you're both Freemasons, he would give you a bit of a deal.
Yeah,
At
I mean that's how it is down here, dude. All those people give each other deals. I just looked up in your area. It says all you have to do is be 21 years of age or older, be of good character and reputation, believe in the existence of a supreme being, and lived in your area for 12 months.
yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah,
Down here, well, I think down here they maybe just didn't want us to join because we were kids and like you know, none of it. Like I guess that may have also made sense with the signing on thing. I haven't looked into it anymore because I could give two shits about any of that. I don't plan on living in this area of Tennessee the rest of my life. But I think I imagine they do have a lot more secrets than people have previously let on. I wonder where they came from. They came from England, right, or somewhere in that area.
I think that's where they come from, England.
Yeah, originally the Masons were tasked with the lore, I guess, or the popular lore is that they were tasks. They were hired by the Catholic Church as the strong arms, more or less. Like they were tasked with guarding the Holy Grail, and as well, they were for the king for the church a lot of the time. But they branched off from the Catholic Church, kind of thing. Is kind of
Mm.
what I remember. I have to look more into that, but
Well, if
originally, yeah, they're from that. Yeah, some.
the Vatican got them into it.
Dude, that is a wild. I was reading a little bit more about it. They were like, this is hilarious. So they started out as a regulator for the qualifications of what a stonemason is.
Really?
So they were like the people that would license someone as to whether they were allowed to build a structure or not.
Dang.
That's also, I know that doesn't seem like a big deal, but that's a lot of power in one group's hands. They're basically saying we're going to
When
control.
everything is made out of
Yeah.
that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like, we're going to control what is or what isn't made, and you'll all have to listen to us. I wonder how they even came into that position. Had to be through the Catholic Church, like you were saying, or something. I would assume. But they're like a very very outspoken. What's the other word? We'll just say outspoken. They're like very outspoken about being Christian, not Catholic. Like
Well,
they say that a lot. So I wonder. I don't know. I'll eventually get someone on the podcast that explains it to me in a very vague way. I'm sure they'll make it as murky as possible.
Yeah.
Oh, they call their supreme being the grand architect of the universe. Oh, never mind. It says members come from all faiths, but one denomination. What? Dude, the more I read about this, the more I'm just going to go down the rabbit hole. I'm just going to be... Somebody should, that's listening to this should...
somebody stop me.
I mean, honestly. But, dang, we got off track. How did we even get there? I don't even...
I have no idea.
bites me.
That's the beauty of every time I do one of these, I have the worst ADHD. Oh, I know something I wanted to talk about earlier. You were saying you had a lot of mentors in life, like to teach you different things, pretty much all the different skills you learned. I guess one important thing would be, because that's something I'm always looking for, like in different aspects of my life. And I know people on the podcast could probably benefit. And like, how did you come across your mentors? Was it just chance, or did you family, friends, or how did that happen?
Well, I think it was by chance, and there's some that I knowed over the years, and we learned different ways, And when I got into the weed business and everything, I mean, I'm not in a weed business, but I love growing it. I'm not a heavy smoker or nothing like that. I just love growing it and watching it, blossom into something special. And I've got into the heavy breeding aspect of it too. And like I said, I got a buddy in Sowell. He's been doing it for 30 years. He's taught me a lot. I mean, he showed me how to breed two females together, which is interesting.
Huh.
So,
Dear God, man, that's terrifying.
he's a genius. I mean, the way he does it. I mean, he's got seeds that date back to the 80s. I mean, he's still holding on to.
Tickety dang.
He's got books of the lineage of it and when they was bred together and stuff like that. He's a genius. I mean, and Then there's Scott that it brought us up to a whole new level with his strains. I mean, it's been crossing them ours with his, and it turned out to be some wicked stuff.
Yeah, I just the I didn't even what was it that I tried? I don't even remember. I loved it though. I wish.
I think it was, when was it? Was
What month is it? What are we in? March.
March?
It was a couple weeks ago. It wasn't long ago. It was right. It was a week before you left.
Okay, yeah. I think I gave y'all some Star Killer and some Lemon Cross
Yeah, Lemon Oasis, I think.
and some Honeydew.
That's what it was. Honeydew for sure.
Honeydew.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah,
That was that mild stuff because I can't handle that. I'm like you. I don't know what happened. When I was younger, I used to be able to throw down. Like we would smoke
yeah.
ounces and sittings and stuff, and I would never get panicky. And then I don't know what happened. I turned my mid-20s, and now every time I smoke, if I don't regulate how much I smoke, I'll fucking have a heart attack. It feels like my heart's exploding or my brain's bleeding. No idea what it is.
That's me. I mean, the best way to do it is, like I tell everybody, if you don't smoke a lot, wait till you about go to bed or at evening, bump it back 1 or 2 times, and just sit back and enjoy it.
Yeah.
A lot of people smoke all day. I mean, you can only get high so high.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
go way most of it.
that's what I tell DJ all the time because I used to be like that. Like I was an avid wax smoker, which I don't
Yeah.
care what anyone says. Wax is terrible for your lungs. No one can debate me on that. It made my breathing so much worse. I felt like the wax I was smoking re-solidified in my lungs somehow. The tar I coughed up when I went sober from smoking weed for those couple months was insane. Or smoking wax, rather, sorry. I went completely sober from smoking wax, and I was coughing up like dark brown amber shit out of my lungs, like just from how much I smoke. Because you get a quarter of wax, a quarter ounce of wax. It'll last you a couple days when you're smoking wax because your tolerance gets so high that. And I know there's a lot of people listening to this like, you fucking pussies, and that'll only last so long. I'm telling you right now. I used to be that guy, and it just DJ does it still right now, but he is a couple years younger than me. I feel like eventually he'll slow down a little more, but he's like that. He'll sit there and just all day smoke like nonstop every 30 minutes, every 30, 45 minutes, and
Yeah.
that stuff.
Well, and everybody has a different tolerance to it too. Like there's some, you'd take a look at like, I don't know, Snoop Dogg or something like that. He's constantly chronic and has been for many, many a year. And there's just some, I don't know, some people just like have smoked and continue to smoke for most of their life. And I think it all depends on too where you're at in your life too. Like, I'm not really too sure. I've known many, many people that it felt like a switch was flipped, and then they got anxiety, made them
Yeah,
feel,
that's what happened to me.
yeah,
You
and
know
it
what I
wasn't
think it was?
anything
I
in
think it was
particular.
because I got sober from drugs. Like I went from doing fucking heroin and Molly and everything else, and weed being the least of my problems, to where I quit doing all those drugs, got sober, almost 6 years ago now. And when I got sober, after that point, every time I would smoke weed, I would have like instant thoughts of like, it took me years to get to where I'm at now. Now I smoke, probably 3 times a day, once in the morning, once in the evening, and once in the afternoon. It's about usually how I'll smoke. And it took me years to get back to this point because for the longest time I would smoke and then be like, oh my God, those years of doing drugs, I'm going to die. I can feel it. My body's shutting down. I kept having that thought over and over. Like every time I got high, I was like, damn, dude, all that heroin I did has to come back and get me, which, I've talked about that on the podcast a bunch. And I can't be ashamed of doing that shit anymore. I was a dumbass kid that was hanging out with the wrong people, but even now, I'm past all that. Like, I know where I stand health-wise. I know what's wrong with my body and shit. And I can even identify when I'm smoking, I'm having a panic attack. But it doesn't change the fact that my brain is literally telling me I'm dying. I even say out loud, I'll be like, I'm having a panic attack. I know I'm not dying. And then my heart just feels like it starts beating even faster because I acknowledged that it's happening. It's such a wild thing. And I get what you're saying too about people having different tolerance levels. I mean, I was on the flip side of that. But also you've got people like Snoop Dogg who have openly admitted that fucking Willie Nelson outsmokes him every time they've hung out. And that's wild to me because Willie's one of the oldest in the game. This dude's what, in his late 80s now?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in his late 80s and he's still out smoking other people. So there are people who are built for it, you know? And I just think a lot of the people who are built for it can understand both sides of the spectrum. You know what I'm saying? That
Yeah.
makes sense. They can really be like, okay, you're not the type of person that smokes a lot. I understand that. The people I'm referring to specifically that I'm saying it's not going to last forever are mostly younger people than me that are like, they're still smoking for a social look. Like, look at me, look how cool I am while I hit this joint. That kind of mindset isn't going to take you anywhere. You're going to start getting panic attacks in a few weeks probably if you're that worried about your appearance.
Yeah.
There's like a level of naivety there where they haven't necessarily gone through the introspective thought to think what is smoking to me, I guess. Where I guess a lot of people who are chronic smokers, like say Willie Nelson or Snoop Dogg, it's I won't say an identity, but it is to a point something that is adopted as just them now. Like, you know what I mean? As
Yeah.
where if someone is smoking, like, oh man, like I've been high for the past like 3 weeks or something like that. Like it's been, if it's a point of, I don't know. I feel like a smoker who's gonna smoke habitually for most of his life isn't gonna mention the fact that he does that. Like, you know what I mean? To
Right.
a degree. Like it's more of a, for me personally, I think, because I do smoke a lot of weed, and I will change up things and take tolerance breaks depending on how I'm feeling when I'm smoking certain strains. And it's more of a, I've given a lot of hours and hours of thought to my relationship with marijuana as well as how it can affect other people. And it is sort of a different way of thinking about it too. Like if, as you guys have stated, you know what works for you with it. And I think the issues, or not issues, but um where you start to get into problems is where you don't have that introspective thought with it. Like if it becomes something without you actually consciously being aware of it, I guess.
Yeah.
So if you go over to your friend's house every day and you guys are smoking up, hitting the bong from the end of high school till like 9 o'clock in there, you're picking out whatever. You do that every day for like say 2 years, and now you keep doing that on your own after high school's done and whatever else. But through that entire point, it's never acknowledged that that becomes a part of your routine. I think that's when it kind of starts to flip in most cases. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think if anything, I wish people would I think different things should be glorified. Like I think hunting and fishing and learning to self-sustain should be more glorified than, oh, look at me, I smoke weed. Is that
Yeah.
that's one of my main qualms with, like, I have this one kid. I'm not gonna say his name because he does listen to this podcast. He'll know who I'm talking about as soon as I say it. But he is so fucking worried about everyone knowing how cool he was in high school that he's not doing anything now outside of high school. And the other day he reached out to me. He's like, "Hey man, I'd like to have some work or anything I could do, to help me out." And this guy, I've known him since he was fucking 12, 13, and he was like, "I'll do anything if you need me to just like chop up food at your house or help you cook." I was like, "Now why the fuck would I need any of that?" And he's like, "I'm pretty much just trying to get $1 here and there, because I've just been living out of my car and I can't get food for myself or anything. I've been eating out of trash cans. And I was just thinking in my head, if maybe I had imparted the ability to teach him how to get food for himself or have a strong work ethic as opposed to, teaching him what it's like to drink and fucking smoke weed and shit, I could have changed his life. Now I can't blame myself for it at this point because it's too far gone. He's made the choice over and over and over and over to not help himself. But I think having people like Uncle Chris on here to share more about different trades and skills that are kind of getting lost as,
The
you know,
value that comes along with that as well, not just that
Yeah.
it's like, yeah.
what would you say is the most important thing that you would teach the next generation if you could, Uncle Chris?
That would be hard. I mean,
Well, pick one skill.
probably this day and time is growing your own food.
Yeah,
Probably.
especially because of all these major food processing facilities
Yeah.
and farms getting burned to the ground.
Yes. Yes. If you can do that, if you can grow your own food, you can survive in this world.
You were
That
you,
or like get really comfortable with cannibalism.
I don't.
Sorry.
I'm not gonna starve to death. I don't think I could. I mean, if it comes down to it, I'd eat a lot of ass because that's probably
yeah,
where the best meat is.
that's the truth.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't think of it this way too. I would have no problem dismantling another human if they tried to kill my son. Like if they came and tried to attack me and my family and we were starving, I'd kill them and eat them. I wouldn't think twice. I think it would fuck me up forever though afterwards.
It would be hard for me to eat somebody that I knew.
Yeah, I couldn't do that. I couldn't. I
It
don't
would be
even.
awful hard.
What could you
Yeah,
eat one of your
it is.
dogs if you were hungry enough?
Eat my dogs.
Yeah.
And that's.
It's
I
one
love
of
my
those things
dogs. I
where
love my
you get
dogs.
hungry enough and that social built up structure, those bonds, they start to be less present in your mind where the hunger is more present. Like
Yeah.
we've talked about it in the past, Logan, but people that get to a point where they're like starving, they will eat anything. Like they will
Yeah.
just shove the rotting rat carcass in their mouth and just go to town on it and it'll taste great.
Yeah. I think that's one of the best assets you could take into an apocalyptic setting is as a hunting dog that's trained to help you get food.
Yeah.
Oh hell yeah, man.
I wouldn't eat the dog in an apocalyptic setting because it could help you continue to get food. I would definitely kill a cat and eat it. Cats are fucking useless. I don't care what anyone says. I have a hatred for cats that'll never go away. I just don't. I just think they're nasty creatures. They just kill shit just to kill it, and it's just
Yeah.
I don't get them. I never will get cats. I'm about to eat a cat here soon. I'm fucking mountain lion. Uh, oh, have you guys?
It ain't got too good of a taste. I mean, it's kind of like a plain taste. Like it ain't got no taste.
I was reading it's like a mild pork.
Yeah.
I think I can make something good happen. That Neil guy I had though was fantastic. That is easily the best beef I've ever had or beef substitute. It's like a So for those of you listening, if you haven't already looked up what a Neil guy is, it's like a wild game that was introduced to Texas from Southeast Asia. It's actually from Southeast Asia, but in
Yeah.
Texas they call them blue bulls, and they're extremely lean, man. I mean, less than 1% fat on them. And dude, those tacos I made were fantastic. I was blown away because
I had never heard of that meat, but yeah, it like I looked it up too, and it's good game.
oh yeah,
My
it's
buddy
like
out here, he's fixing to give me some bighorn sheep.
ooh,
And he says of all the wild game he's ever had, that was the best tasting
I could
meat he's
see it.
ever had. It outdoes elk, whitetail, you name it. He said it was the best taste of meat he's ever had.
I love elk too. I've had
Oh,
elk a few times now, and that's
my
wonderful.
buddy brought me some elk the other day, ground it up in bacon, and I made some cowboy beans out of it. And oh my god,
Mm.
you talk about good.
Well, up here, like when our mooses get too old, like when they can't transport us anymore, that's what we do. We pig out on moose. So
Yeah.
I
So full of shit.
I've had
Dude,
moose burgers. They're good.
I've
I
had
feel
moose up here too, but I'm just gonna reiterate we don't ride moose.
um dude,
Much.
I was blown away when I found out how big moose really are.
Oh
I
man,
saw
they're
a video
massive.
of two moose fighting next to a Ford F-350, big ass
Yeah,
truck. They were taller, like head and shoulders over the truck fighting.
they are. I mean, they're huge. That up in Maine, my two dogs had a big bull moose bait up in some man's pond in their yard. I
Oh
mean,
god.
I wasn't 25 yards from it, and it like, oh my god, they're huge.
So the thing about those, like when I was in driving school, I had like a little convertible low to the ground. I was told by my instructor, if I ever encounter a moose on the road, speed up as fast as I can because there's a good chance that I'll make it underneath the moose before it falls on me. Honestly, he's just like those things are so tall you might be able to make it underneath with your type of car.
Yeah.
So they are huge, and anything that so around here anyway, if you get two or three moose like in the area, most of the time too, I've seen videos of moose taking on packs of wolves and bears. They're not necessarily just targets. They're pretty.
Oh yeah, no.
They'll impale things with antlers. Like it's scary sometimes. I've seen a wolf head impaled on a fucking antler.
I would say there's not too many animals that could successfully take down a moose besides a brown bear.
Oh yeah. Well,
And
like,
brown
and
bears are massive.
here's the other part of it too. It like a pack of wolves will run down a moose, separate it, and
Yeah.
eventually get the kill. But like, it's a lot of. It's like a almost like a hippopotamus. Just because of the massive size of it, it becomes a challenge. You know what I'm saying?
Hippopotamuses
And
are scary.
Yeah,
yeah, up
That's
here actually, the biggest threat to moose are ticks.
That makes sense, dude. Oh my God, I was in the hospital the other day with my son. By the way, everyone who listened to last podcast, he's doing a lot better now, and he's at home just chilling. He's at daycare right now, but he's doing way better. But I was at daycare, or fuck, I was at the hospital with my son, and this guy came in, and his son, he's a truck driver. I don't know his name or his kid's name, HIPAA violation, all that shit, but he came in, and his son had a tick on the back of his head, and this thing was the size of a fucking penny, bro. It was massive.
Oh,
And that's what I'm saying. Oh, it's probably closer to a dime. I was exaggerating a little bit, but it was huge. I'd never seen. I was like, how did he go that long without knowing his kid had that fucking big ass tick? And that's what the doctor asked him to. And he was like, I'm a truck driver. I just got home. My old lady was watching him. And she said she didn't see it. And I was like, so that kid just didn't take a bath for the last 3 months or some shit? 'Cause that thing is fucking massive. But they removed it. I watched them remove it while Arson slept, and it was fucking disgusting, man. Those things are terrifying. I have a friend I talked about on here before too. He got Lyme's disease from a tick, and he lost his ability to talk and walk. And then he actually took psilocybin and lion's mane with a few other mycelium derivatives, some sort of mushroom derivatives. I know mycelium was one of the chemicals, but he now like is back full speech and walking and everything. But he got so sick from that Lyme's disease that he almost died. Like he was having to have his mom help care for him and stuff. And he's my age. He's 26.
so something interesting about that too is around here in Ontario, doctors will do everything they can not to give you that diagnosis. I
What
have a
Lyme's
friend
disease?
around. Yeah, because they don't. Once we have a case of Lyme's disease, it becomes a every animal that's hunted has to be tested for it, and
Uh,
so if it's present in the area, it becomes a big deal for game and wildlife. So what happens now is we have a family friend who actually had to go to the States in order to actually receive that diagnosis and to get treatment here afterwards. But it was quite an ordeal. But that Lyme's disease is a beast. Sorry, I just kind of interjected there.
oh no, you're fine. I was just trying to But yeah, I think I was gonna bring this up earlier. There's an area in Texas. I don't know if you've heard of this, Uncle Chris, but essentially a hunting safari where you pay a ticket to hunt a certain kind of animal. Like you can pay them like, $50,000 to hunt a zebra and then keep the zebra meat and eat it if you want. They
Yeah,
just import stuff from around the world. How do you feel about stuff like that? Do you think that you would do something like that, or you like the wild aspect of like tracking something and
I'm more old timey. I like to track it, you know, with my hounds, just to see, just the excitement of it, instead of just going pay somebody $50,000 and sit there knowing you're gonna kill something anyway. You
yeah,
know, I'm not into all that, but I like to do my own hunting with my own dogs, whether it's mountain lion, coon, bear, squirrels.
mountain lions scare me. I've
Yeah,
I've 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 turned into just a big old pussy ever since my son was born. I'm scared of everything. I think I wasn't like that before he was born, but now like all the dangers of the world are very apparent. I'm like, if I take him in the woods, I need to have multiple people and multiple firearms because there's something that could run up on me and I won't be ready. And the only woods I've taken him to so far, because he's still only a year old, is just places that have trails already marked out and we can walk him and stuff. But I can't wait until he's, older and well, I can't wait. I don't want him to grow up. But once he gets around 5, 6, 7, I'm gonna start taking him out and camping and doing fun shit with him. That trying to introduce him to some of the stuff you introduced me to growing up. Because, like I said, I mean, my identity, a lot of the things I like, I directly learned from you. Like, dude, I never would have done jujitsu in a million years if you didn't tell me about it growing up.
mhm.
And watching UFC too. That's like my biggest pastime. I watch MMA now and train more than I skateboard. And you've known me my whole life. I've skateboarded forever. I still skateboard, but I don't I think without. I remember. I believe was it Mark that had that cabin up top?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, that was the first place I watched a main UFC event. Was up there, and man, I also watched that. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say I watched Anderson Silva force Griffin up there too. When Anderson Silva was just in the Matrix and he was just jabbing, no one could touch him. He was literally untouchable and slipping and moved back and just jabbed Forrest as he was walking backwards and knocked him out. He just gave up on the floor.
yeah.
I remember seeing that and thinking, holy cow, like how do you even do something? Because I grew up watching WWE and then I found out that was fake and I was like, "What?" That blew my mind, man. I can't tell you, I can't tell you how heartbroken I was. I thought the Undertaker was the baddest man in the world. I was like, how does he just rise from the dead and pick people up with one hand? I don't know why in my mind I didn't think this might be fake.
It's something out of Mortal Kombat.
Literally. But that I
You
think.
got two of the greatest coaches I've known in jiu-jitsu, the two twins.
Oh, dude, they're phenomenal. I know they're upset with me right now if they listen to this that my arm's fucked up and I wish it wasn't. I'm gonna go train to Thursday. I'm just gonna go to class and record notes and practice, but
Yeah,
tore my UCL and sprained my wrist and green stick fractured my radius. So I have
yeah,
to do some physical therapy and some other shit before I can go back training full time. But dude, they're geniuses of the sport. Like
they are.
watching them. Okay, so there's this one guy in our gym that's easily like 235, 6 foot, 3 plus, solid muscle, one of the most athletic people I've ever met in my life. I watch Logan and Taylor ragdoll this man. Like
Yeah,
it's like they're super strong, but it's just technique. It's just the most perfect technique you'll ever see. And it's like we're literally like watching them play with a child, like wrestle with a child.
yeah.
And it's a grown man that's got 70 pounds on him.
And you get easily aggravated because you can't do nothing with them.
You can't do it. I haven't even rolled with them yet, which is the crazy part. I've been going there over 6 months now, and I haven't even rolled with them yet. Just
I
because,
did. Let me tell you, I'm claustrophobic, and when they grab a hold of you, hey,
yeah.
it's something else.
That's okay. So that was one of the biggest things I learned in jiu-jitsu. The biggest improvement of my game so far is I'm also very claustrophobic, and jiu-jitsu has helped me with that immensely. I used to be terrified of anything small space, and I remember my first couple classes of jiu-jitsu, people would just put pressure on me, and I would tap. They wouldn't even submit me. I would just be fucking, I can't breathe, freak out and tap.
Yeah.
And now, the most important thing I've learned from jiu-jitsu, more than anything, more than learning to keep working at something with no reward, learning to keep working at something just to get better, I've learned how to breathe. That is the best thing I've learned. I can have a guy that's literally trying to suffocate me, and I can stop and breathe and think about what's happening to me, and then I can find my way out of it. That's the most important thing jiu-jitsu's ever taught me. And I think, see, this is the kind of stuff though that people are missing out on because like. I just don't know like what people think. Like it's so nowadays it's so much more important to impress other people than it is to actually learn things that'll benefit you directly. Like I got slaughtered on Facebook the other day because I said I think people who work out just to show other people they work out are weird. Bro, I got drug all through the mud, got reported. I wasn't allowed to post on Facebook for 2 weeks. Crazy shit. I was like, what the hell? And all I'm saying is, and then I made another post and I was like, all I was saying is, I think you should work out just because you want to be healthy, not because you want to show everyone else in the world. Like, you know, Greg does that shit. I give him shit for it all the time. He'll literally be like, just post the same selfie every day, back in the gym, and 90% of him being at the gym is him taking videos of him being at the gym.
I know a woman that does that. I give her hell all the time. I mean, she does it for the attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she tells me that she don't, but she'll post every day she's working out, and there'll be some days that she'll get on there. If she ain't getting a lot of attention, she'll pull out a sad story, blah, 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 so she can get the attention. Then she'll get all those likes and stuff like that. I can't
Yeah.
stand.
Yeah, I hate that shit, man. And you know what's sad? The reason I hate it as much as I do is because I used to do that when I was a child.
Yeah.
And then I grew up, and now that I'm not a child and I see grown-ass adults my age doing that shit, I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, oh, there's so many things you could be using, and that's my big thing, right? For the longest time, I thought the internet was like just this shitty thing that you could watch cat videos on and stupid shit and make your mind go dumb. But you can learn so much stuff if you use it the right way. I try to only use the internet now, like I read so much and listen to podcasts and audiobooks, and then obviously, you know, I'll watch a video on YouTube here or there. I make podcasts, so I try to stay slightly up to date on anything new and interesting. But most of my internet use on my phone, you look at my most favorited pages and videos and shit, it's almost all documentaries about different animals or different hunting styles or different fighting styles and different things I've just recently realized are so much more important than, you know, look at me, I got 30 likes on Instagram. Like, I just don't, that's a big one for me.
I agree with you there. It's not it's a very face value thing, and it's a part of that dopamine circle. We've talked about it before, but you do get a dopamine hit, or people do rather, when they get those likes, when they get those types of affirmations from people, and it's what's popular in the culture right now. Sorry
Yeah.
if I sound echoey.
No, you're good. I think that's one of the most important things that we should do as a society to leave to the next generation. We should try to instill, I'm not saying this in like a rude way, but humility needs to be present again, right? I'm not saying we should humble people. That sounds hateful. What I'm saying is like one of the most important experiences of my life was going to jujitsu and having a 15-year-old kid choke me out 30 different ways. You know, that this kid named Ranger. Shout out to you, Ranger. I know you'll never listen to this either, but holy cow, man, this kid Ranger's 15 and he whips my ass every time I go in there. I can't do anything against him. The other day we were rolling, I just laughed. It was 8 minutes straight of me laughing while he choked me out different ways. I couldn't figure out what to do. And I think that's so important because with that humility, you learn to face the parts of yourself that no one wants to face. And that's what a lot of this social media shit is. It's like, here's what I want everyone to see instead of working on what I don't want anyone to see. You should be
Yeah.
working on that part of you that you don't want people to see so that there's not this ugly coming to light. You see that with a lot of celebrities now, though. There's always something, they're being canceled for doing this in their past. Canceled. You're canceled. You're canceled. Why not just bring it all to the forefront? Comics are great at that. Fucking
Yeah.
dude, you got people like Ricky Gervais. I don't know. Do you guys know Ricky Gervais?
I don't think
Yeah.
I do.
Dear God, man, Ricky Gervais is one of the most ruthless comics of all time. He's South Park level ruthlessness in the topics he talks about. And you can't cancel somebody like that. Dave Chappelle, they tried to cancel his ass. It's just not possible. I think there needs to be a lot more of unapologetic, not necessarily airing of your dirty laundry, but unapologetic, revealing parts of yourself that aren't super.
It's to take pressure off the. It's pressure relief of everybody kind of does this. Like it. Yeah, I think comedy is definitely a route to enlightenment in that sort of case. That in a lot of different scenarios, we're all feeling and thinking something similar, and it sometimes is easier to think about that as funny and uncomfortable. Like it's.
If you can't
There's
laugh at
varying
something,
degrees.
it's not serious.
Exactly. Well, yeah, to a degree. Like that's something that isn't a laughing matter becomes a laughing matter once you understand it fully. Like
Yeah, like 9/11.
we're inherently people of amusement. Like it's a very touchy subject as well because
Yeah.
cancel culture right now is very big as well, and
Dude, I've been
to a
canceled
degree,
3 times since I started this podcast.
I believe it.
Like, I've had people openly tell people not to listen to my podcast 3 different times now on social media for whatever reason and no idea. Actually, I know why. I got called a fat phobe at one point. That was funny. And then I've had a few that were pretty hilarious. Because if anyone knows me in person, they know I do aggravate a lot and talk a lot of shit. Which I also get that from you, Uncle Chris. I swear to God. Mom tells me all the time because I aggravate her so much and everyone else. She's like, "You're just like your uncle." Because I don't know. I like getting reactions out of people, getting a rise out of people. It's hilarious to me. I just think it's one of the best forms of comedy is seeing how someone's going to react when you put them in a situation they're not used to. I love doing it all the time. I do it to unsuspecting people though. The other day we were at Books a Million and Kiana got so mad at me because we went up to the register and I just started breathing really fast. I was just going like that. She got so mad at me. It's like, why are you doing that? What's wrong with you? I was like, I'm just vibing. I'm just breathing, babe. You just gotta. But that kind of thing for me is just part of what keeps me sane. It's better than drugs. Just fucking with
Like
people.
can't take life too seriously or else it'll kill you.
Oh yeah, and we're all gonna die anyways. See, that's what. Oh, that was another thing. Did you know I opened this podcast, Griffin? The very first line I said is, "We're probably gonna crash and burn like the pilot of MH370 or whatever it was."
Yeah.
That's brutal, bro. I don't even remember saying that. I have no recollection of me saying that. And Kiana said she listened to our first episode the other day, and that was the first thing she heard, and she said she would have turned it off if she didn't know who I was. I was like, damn, that's probably accurate. A lot of people probably heard that and were like, oh, okay, this is not up my alley. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I feel like we're branching into informational as well as comedic, like having people on that are teaching us different things as we go. Like I feel like I learned a lot about hunting and the different lifestyles of especially like an older generation. And I didn't realize how many things I picked up from that generation until having this conversation today. I have fucking a lot of my shit I learned from that.
Yeah, I think we're definitely changing the dynamic of how when this thing first started, it was very comedic based, but now we are learning and growing a lot with a lot of different guests that we have on. So it's definitely been an experience more than just sharing experiences. That's something to be said.
Yeah. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is 4:20 where I live. You know what that means. It's time for me to go pick up my son. um, thank you for coming on, Uncle Chris. We had a wonderful conversation. Is there anything you want to shout out before I close this out? Cash money worldwide.
Shout out to the Virginia Bear Mafia crew. Keep
That's
doing what you're doing.
That's right, baby. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been another wonderful episode. And don't forget, as always, don't get choked on your daily dose of 2 pieces of toast. Peace.